started doing prison ministry 25 years ago, there was a poster up at our church from Prison Fellowship for pen pals. I thought, I can do that, I can write letters. I corresponded with 2 men, one in California and one in New Mexico. And I had been doing that for probably a year, and the area director from Prison Fellowship called me and she said, Sharon, would you be interested in doing an in-prison seminar? I got trained and I thought, this is wonderful. And I remember when that gate slammed behind me, and I thought to myself, what have I done?
Southside channel.
In my 25 years of prison ministry, I think across the board, inmates are getting a little harder. The men and women that we minister to inside the prisons are obviously there for a reason. They're convicted felons. I don't want to know what the reason is. I don't want to know if they're a sex offender or a murderer or a robber, because they are broken people. They are hurting and they are in desperate need of truth. Most of the women have children. I think for most of them it's an area of extreme pain that their children are on the outside. Many of them don't know where their children are. That's a tremendous heartache for women who are in prison. As volunteers inside the prison, can't offer to do anything for their children or to try and locate them. In every state, there are fraternization rules that we need to sign. We can't have any inside-outside contact, is what they call it. So if I'm ministering to an inmate on the inside, I can't be in contact with their family on the outside. In-prison community Bible study was birthed from people who were in community Bible study classes. When I look at the scripture that talks about, when I was in prison you visited me, I always go to that last section where it talks, where they're responding back to Jesus, we never saw you in prison, but he is there. With community Bible study, the inmates get a lesson that they have to go through. They need to look in the Bible, find answers, think through things. Most other studies that come into a prison, if they hand them anything, and generally they don't, they just speak at the inmates. And when they're done speaking, the inmates can go back to their units and that's it, it's done. One of the classes that most DOCs teach is anger management, things that they can do to manage their anger. When Christ takes over your heart, he takes the anger away. And so it's a difference between learning how to control your behavior, which lasts for a little while. All of us have been on diets. I can be on a diet for a little while, and then you can forget it. If Christ changes my attitude toward eating, or whatever bad behavior I have, then it's a permanent change. They come voluntarily. I have had inmates come into my class that are not believers, that have become believers. They study, they have the material, quality, good material. They study the Bible, they come back and they discuss what they've learned. It just gets worked into their spirits because they're not just listening and then going back and forgetting what they heard. I have had inmates say to me, the thing I love about this class is that I get to talk to my peers. They get to discuss. I had an inmate come into my class. John was in a wheelchair, he had a trach, and the first sharing night that we had after he'd been there, from the back of the room he raised his hand and I thought, oh, John, nobody's even gonna be able to hear you. So I called on him and he said, Sharon, before I started coming to this class, I never felt welcomed anyplace. He said, guys in this class see me on the track and they stop me and ask how my family is and they pray for me. I was in tears. Half the class was in tears. That's what community Bible study does, because it's not just a Bible study. It's a core group of people who build a relationship and have trust in one another. Community Bible study continues to support us in every way that they can. We are part of their prayer calendar every month. Financially, in-prison classes contribute nothing. Our in-prison students do not have the ability to pay for their courses. When an inmate is fortunate enough to actually get a job inside the prison, in Wisconsin where I teach, the highest pay scale is 17 cents an hour. Out of that 17 cents an hour, they're having to buy their own soap and shampoo and personal things. If they want a Bible, they need to save up their money, their 17 cents an hour, to pay for their Bible. So we don't even ask them to pay for the materials. Outside classes pay for their materials. They send in donations. Our inmates don't have the ability to do that, so we are provided the materials mostly electronically. For in-prison community Bible study, the major need is volunteers. And then the other need, once we have volunteers, the other need is making the connections with the prisons. We can't just knock on their door and say, "Hi, we're bringing you this Bible study." And so oftentimes a lot of prayer goes behind even getting an appointment with a chaplain. My dream, the vision that the Lord has given to me, is that we would have an in-prison community Bible study class in every jail and every prison throughout the United States. It is the one thing that brings hope and transformation to lives that are broken and needy.